Tests against nationally ranked teams are the focus this week as we welcome you into the first Wolves Weekly of the 2016 and 17 school year. My name is John Potter, the Director of Athletic Media and External Relations here at WU. We've got volleyball head coach Tommy Gott, football head coach Arne Ferguson, and the Wolves Weekly Rally, all for you on this edition of Wolves Weekly. Getting ready to host two big Great Northwest Athletic Conference matches here at home this week. We're joined by Western Oregon volleyball coach Tommy Gott. 11 matches in, Tommy. What have been kind of the main things you've seen from your club through those first 11 matches?
I think the big thing has been the resiliency that we've showed. Our defense, we've played pretty good defense, shown a lot of relentlessness, being able to extend rallies, create a lot of good opportunities off of digs and transition for ourselves. So the way that we're playing and being able to push into longer matches and make runs and stop teams' runs are going pretty well for us.
Do a quick recap of your season thus far, starting over in a Labor Day weekend tournament at Concordia, and you guys had a nationally ranked team on the ropes in that first match. Talk about what happened in the five-setter against Florida Southern and that opening weekend.
Well, I think that was exciting for us. It was a chance where, like you said, it was top 15 team in the nation, very tough matchup. But we were able to see some things of what some of our strengths were. I think we were able to serve and pass pretty good in those first few sets and control some stuff defensively, and then being able to extend and kind of make some of those bigger teams play to our style a little bit quicker, it helped us. And so being able to see early on what our strengths are was a good sign for how that tournament went.
And then you had the chance to play over in the D2 West Region crossover, and not a lot of guys that go from an assistant job one year to a head coaching job the next get to play the team that you were previously at. That weekend, a very successful one, winning 3 out of 4, but had to be nice to get that win over Chico State.
It was fun. Personally, I mean, I was just happy we had success. I was happy we had wins. Wouldn't have cared if it was over Chico State or everyone else, but it was a fun matchup. It was one of those matches where I looked at B1 where we'd be able to see where we are as a team, doing our system, pretty similar system I brought over from Chico State being there. So being able to evaluate where we are as a team there and have success with it, it was good, and it was fun being able to play them for sure.
Then you opened up a couple of weeks ago here at home with a loss to nationally ranked Northwest Nazarene, but then a nice bounce back coming against a very good Central Washington team. We have some highlights courtesy of Digital Production Services of that match. Talk us through this, because midway through the fifth set, it looked like Central Washington was pulling away and had the momentum. But your team played really, really tough and picked up a nice conference win.
And I think that just goes to show the resiliency I was talking about earlier. We've been down a couple times in sets 1 and 2 early on, being able to push back and come on runs. And then also in that fifth set in Central, we were down 5-10 and pushed to a 15-13 victory, I believe, if I remember off the top of my head. And so being able to have that resiliency and being able to rely on our defense and our first contact to being able to control where we're placing the ball, and then having the confidence of being able to be aggressive with our attackers. The fact that they were able to continue swing aggressive helped us a lot. I thought at times that allowed us to keep pushing the pressure and tempo, and we were able to catch Central on their heels, and so that was a big aspect of what we were trying to do.
Starting with the defense, you have an all-conference returning all-star in Christy Colacerdo as your libero, but with Sheila Lemus de la Cruz and Libby Haney also back there, you really have a lot of depth that maybe prior teams over the last couple of seasons haven't had.
And coming in early on, I thought our DS position, that whole column, was our strength of our team. We have 4 good DSs. You mentioned Christy, Sheila, Libby, and then we also have McKenna Barons, but all of them are playing really well, and they've been a strength for us throughout the season, and really relying and kind of using them as our backbone. And what we want to do offensively in our style, it has to start with that position for sure. So them being able to control those contacts is a big aspect of our game plan.
We just saw in the last highlight a block from the middle. Paige Orth, Sydney Blankenship, and over the last couple of matches, Catherine Huntington has played really well in the middle. Talk about how those three have really kind of set up going from the middle to the outside on your blocking scheme.
I don't want to give too many secrets on the blocking scheme for sure. It's something different that not every team uses.
Sure.
But what they're doing and big aspect of what we're trying to do is get them in favorable matchups, get them in situations where they're able to be more effective in the block and put more challenges on the hitters on the other side of the net.
Offensively, Alicia Bedenson's been leading the way. They've had a couple of matches over the last couple of weeks with career high in kills, matched it with 22 against Central, had 27 in the 5-set win at St. Martin's. What have the core kind of Alicia Bentonson, Amanda Short, Paige Orth, Mariella Vandekoy kind of brought to the offense, knowing that they're all returners, but it's really setting up in your system for the first time?
I think a big thing early on was the playing experience that they all had before. All of them returned and got a lot of playing time last year, and so having that confidence and knowing a little bit of what the conference looks like helps too. I think a big thing of being able to find favorable matchups in the scouting, being able to give them in the game plans areas where they can attack and using their strengths. They're all hitting line pretty well, and so we're going to keep attacking line, but then also being able to, for Amanda, her natural athletic ability to be able to jump and contact high off blockers' hands, being able to put them in favorable strength matchups that they can go and attack teams.
You've got 2 tough ones this week here at home. Simon Fraser, 10-2, receiving votes in the national poll for the first time. And then Western Washington, who was a preseason ranked team, still in the top 25 at 6-6 overall. Where do you see those matchups lining up early against Simon Fraser on Thursday and Western Washington on Saturday?
I think it's going to be fun matchups. On video, I think we have opportunities where we can convert and do some good stuff. And both, like you said, both those teams are very strong, good teams. So look forward to being able to play the match, and that's why you play the game every time. You can't just go by paper.
Thursday is our back-to-school beach party for the volleyball match against Simon Fraser, so I'll close with this final question. Will we see you in beach shorts coaching on Thursday night?
I don't think so, not on the sideline.
Maybe in the warm-up we can get him to...
We'll see. That's a lot of changing time.
And maybe pushing it. Tommy Gott of the Western Oregon volleyball team. You can see them again here at home Thursday against Simon Fraser and Saturday against Western Washington. Tommy, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Sean.
We'll be right back on Wolves Weekly. Heading into a home weekend red-out matchup with Azusa Pacific. The nationally ranked Cougars coming in. We're joined by Western Oregon football coach Arne Ferguson. Coach, 2-2 so far through your first 4 games. Let's hit some quick synopsis of the 4 games. First, obviously the nationally breaking news that a D2 beat a D1 FCS team, which happens more often than you think, but a great way to start your season, going to Sacramento State and picking up a win.
Yeah, the odds are not in your favor. A, you're on the road. B, there's a huge difference of level in scholarship and commitments by the university. Just the different between Division I, Division II school. And obviously the start of the year, usually they're quite a bit probably about 9 to 8 days ahead of you. This year worked out closer. They're only 4 or 5 days ahead of us as far as the practice schedule and those type of things. But our kids played well. Our offense played really well, and our defense hung on in the end.
Turnovers seem to be a big difference in that ball game, able to capitalize on them, especially in the first half. Speak to that if you would.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Paul Revis started the whole thing at Sac State with a 30-yard return, then a return for a touchdown. Then our defense got an early turnover on a route that was thrown to a guy, jumped in front, and then our offense took over from there.
Then you come back and open up at home against Central Washington, and we've got some highlights of that ball game. Competitive to start out, but it seemed like the offense may have stalled a little bit with Central Washington making some adjustments in the second half.
More so the amount of depth you need, going from team to team. We felt our first half we played really well. Could have been up with some more points and a 10 to 13 ball game. And then the second half we ran out of gas and didn't match their intensity. And they're a very good team, as we know.
Go on the road to Montana State. Won't touch much about that. We'll just bounce back to the next week on the road, which was a GNAC matchup against a nationally ranked team, a conference rival in Humboldt State. You guys go in there and play probably as strong a first half as we've seen, not only this season, but over a couple seasons, and rack up as many yards as you have since 2013. Just your overall impressions of the ball game in Arcata and getting that win against Humboldt State.
Yeah, first of all, we're not pleased, but it's not surprising we're 2-2 with 2 Division I schools playing. Central Washington playing really well. Humboldt is pretty much the same team that was a playoff team last year. We felt, even though we didn't succeed like we wanted to, with 14, 15 hours on the bus going to Montana State. It really prepared us against an extremely good running back at Humboldt State. Defensively, we were able to contain him that no one has really to this last 2 to 3 years, and forced him into throwing the ball. Then our offense, honestly, I'm not sure, from blocking by receivers to our O-line to running by our quarterback, receivers, and obviously Braxton almost having 200 yards. I've never seen a better offensive performance, and we needed that against a very potent Humboldt team.
You mentioned the defense, wrapping up a Harlan Hill finalist in Jaquan Gardner. We don't focus enough on the defense. A lot of the stars are the Paul Revises, the Philip Fanumi's, the Malik Braxton's picking up yards, but defensively through your first 4 games, your front 4, which have gotten a whole bunch of credit from D1 opposing schools and coaches saying that they could play at that FCS level on a week-to-week basis, and then your 3 linebackers who have just shown up, led by Bo Heiberger, with Tyler Johnson in there, with Tolunea in there. Talk about how that front 7 has really kind of keyed what you plan on your defensive schemes.
Well, first of all, offensively, when we can get Paul Revis going with Wesley also having big plays, Philip throwing for 260 yards, running for another 80 to 100 yards, and then having Paul catching for 100 to 75 yards and plus overall 200 yards all purpose. I mean, those 3 to 4 are really big time players, and when we get them all going with our O-line, that's amazing. And we haven't even talked about Andy Avgi yet.
Exactly right.
And he's getting better and better. We've had multiple scouts in here, probably half the NFL scouts coming and looking at him. And he's producing, running. I mean, when he has the ball with touchdowns, he had a huge 4th down at Humboldt, play for a touchdown. So he's making those key plays, but his blocking is pretty darn special. So when you add that all up together, even though it didn't pan as well as we like against Montana State, but Montana State's probably the biggest and best Division I team we've played to date since I've been here. Then defensively, our front 7 are doing a nice job. We have to do much better in the passing game, and that's a huge focus this week. But also, we know the Zoos is going to be a great running team.
You mentioned passing game being a big key this week. A guy whose name always seems to come up when a big play is needed is in your secondary, and Danny Hankins. He had touchdown or interception returns for touchdowns last year, had a big stop in the final play of the game last week at Humboldt State. How has he kind of anchored what you wanted to do in the secondary?
Yeah, and we thought against the Central Washington, a crucial play that they called one of our D linemen for jumping, even though we thought he was in the neutral zone. Danny takes a pick for a touchdown. You know, we feel like that's robbed a little bit, but he's made play after play. He's drawn the tough assignment, and he wants that spotlight. Yeah. And we think he's probably one of the best, or if not the best, cover guy in our conference. But Azusa's coming in with 2 6'2", 6'3" receivers. It's going to be a challenge to contain them.
Defensively, Azusa probably presents a challenge that not many people see. If for those that are coming to MacArthur Field on Saturday, and they'll see the Cougars on defense, not necessarily set up in a traditional 3-4 or even a 4-3, people moving around. I would imagine as a coaching staff, the preparation for the non-conformity of their defense has got to scratch some heads at times.
A, we've seen it for a while. B, our younger linemen are now juniors, so that really helps. When they started as a freshman, that was a huge deal. Yeah. But what the real issue is, Azusa's upgraded their size in D-line position, all their receiver positions, and they're 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", all the way across. Traditionally, we're one of the more taller teams, more rangy teams, with some real quick guys mixed in, obviously Paul. They've gone the true transition into a very consistent powerhouse Division II team that we saw in the Grand Valleys, and we saw when the Carson Newmans, those type of schools, Texas A&M Kingsville. So they're ahead of us and ahead of most people in our conference in that size category with young players.
They come in 14th ranked in the coaches' national poll this week, but you've had some success over some nationally ranked teams coming into MacArthur Field. knocking off number 6 North Alabama last year, and you've overall won 2 out of the 3 games since 2011 against ranked teams. How tough is it for a visiting team to come in, especially ranked, in front of this home crowd at MacArthur?
Yeah, the issue is we play on a grass field. Our players really like that field. The last 3 to 4 years, we've been extremely successful on our field. We didn't win against Humboldt at the end of the season last year, so it's nice to see us continue to get better and beat them on the road on a very tough ball game. But Azusa last year was neck and neck all the way down to the end, and we expect that type of ball game with their additions, with really some explosive athletes that they've added to their team. That's going to be a really big challenge on special teams and also the specialists also.
Arne Ferguson of the football team, you'll see him and his squad on the grass at MacArthur Field at 1 p.m. Saturday, the kickoff against nationally ranked Azusa Pacific. Arne, thank you for your time. Good luck against the Cougars this weekend.
Well, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
We'll have the Wolves Weekly Rally right after this on Wolves Weekly. This week's edition of the Wolves Weekly Rally starts right now. On Thursday, the women's soccer team starts out their road trip facing Central Washington. They'll be in Ellensburg for a 3 p.m. kickoff against the Wildcats. They'll close out their weekend on Burnaby, facing the Simon Fraser Clan on Saturday at a noon kickoff at Terry Fox Field. Volleyball this week at home, as we talked with Tommy Gott. They've got Simon Fraser on Thursday at 7 p.m. inside the new PE building for the back-to-school beach party. Come out decked in your best beach wear, as we'll have a nice festive atmosphere for that ball game. The volleyball team will remain at home on Saturday as they welcome in Western Washington at 7 p.m. inside new PE. Cross Country's got one meet this week. They'll be heading to Salem to take part in the Charles Bowles Invitational, brought to you and hosted by Willamette University. Races start at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. And the football team will wrap up their weekend at home with a test against 14th-ranked Azusa Pacific. Kickoff at 1 o'clock, coverage on KWVT as well as WooWolves.com. That's your rally, and that's your show. We thank you for joining us for this edition of Wolves Weekly. We'll catch you next week. We'll have highlights of both volleyball and football and get you all ready for another great week of Western Oregon sports. I'm John Potter, and you've been watching Wolves Weekly. Until next week, go Wolves!